The SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Chapter 6. Mr. Krabs was shaking in his shell that a bolt of lightning burst from King Neptune's staff and hit him in the backside. Mr. Krabs howled and hopped around the restaurant, smoke pouring from his pants. "Ah! Me pants are on fire!" screamed Mr. Krabs. "Me underwear's on fire! I'm on fire!" Mr. Krabs dived into a tub of water and put out the fire. As his bottom sizzled, he sighed with relief. King Neptune laughed, then he almost aimed his trident once again. "And now, Eugene Krabs, you will be punished," he declared. But before the king could unleash another lightning bolt, SpongeBob SquarePants jumped in front of his boss and cried, "Wait!" "What?" said Neptune.
"I'm flattered you would do this on my account," said SpongeBob. "But being manager isn't worth punishing Mr. Krabs over."
Neptune's eyes grew stormy. "Quiet, fool!" he hollered. "Mr. Krabs stole my crown and sold it to Shell City. That's why he must be punished." SpongeBob scratched his square head.
"Gee, doesn't it seem a little harsh to punish someone over a crown?"
he asked. Neptune shook his head. "You don't understand. My crown is a symbol of my king-like authority." The king leaned over and whispered, "And just between you and me, my hair is thinning a bit."
"Oh, your highness, I'm sure it's not that noticeable," said SpongeBob. The king considered SpongeBob's words. Then, standing tall, Neptune pulled the paper bag off of his head. The glitter on his bald spot was so strong it practically blinded everyone. "Ah! Bald! Bald!"
screeched SpongeBob, pointing at the chrome dome and shielding his eyes. Reddening, King Neptune quickly placed the bag back on his head. All right, that's enough," he said. SpongeBob now understood how important the crown was to the king. He tugged at Neptune's beard.
"King Neptune, sir," said SpongeBob, "would you spare Mr. Krabs from punishment and if I went and got your crown back?"
"You?" bellowed Neptune. "Go to Shell City?" The king laughed out loud. "The road to Shell City is the most dangerous journey that any man can undertake," said the king. "What chance would you have? You're just a kid."
"But I'm not a kid. I can do it,"
said SpongeBob. Neptune simply shook his head and tapped SpongeBob's behind with his long trident. "Run along," he told the little square sponge. "I have a crab to cook," said the king. Then once more Neptune aimed his trident at Mr. Krabs. "Oh!" screamed Krabs.
"No, I won't let you,"
said SpongeBob, standing in front of his boss again. "Very well, then," King Neptune replied. "I'll have to punish you both." SpongeBob hugged Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs hugged SpongeBob back. They both knew they were in big trouble, and they screamed together.
"Ah!
Ah!" Just then Princess Mindy appeared, blocking her father's aim. "Daddy, stop it!" she cried. "Can't you get through one day without punishing someone?" "Mindy," said Neptune sternly, "I told you to stay in the carriage." "Where's your love and compassion?" said Mindy. She took SpongeBob by the arm. "Look at this little guy. He's willing to risk his life to find your crown and save his boss." "But daughter," said Neptune. "Please, father," said Mindy. "At least let him try. What have you got to lose? Might I remind you of your special problem?" Mindy reached up and pulled the bag off her father's head. "Bold! Bold! Bold! Ah! My eyes!" screamed a crowd of customers. King Neptune sighed a mighty sigh and then surrendered. "Very well, Mindy," said the king. "I'll give him a chance, but when your little champion fails to return, I get to cook this crab, but good." Mr. Krabs began to shake again. "And as for you," Neptune said to SpongeBob, "be back here with my crown in exactly 10 days. Suddenly, Patrick the Starfish entered the restaurant and spoke up. "He can do it in 9. 8, called the king. 7, boasted Patrick. 6, roared the king. 5. Before Patrick could say another word, Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob shouted, "Patrick!" and they tackled him. On the ground, Mr. Krabs placed his claw over Patrick's big mouth before he made things worse. "6 it is, then," commanded the king. "5," said Patrick, but SpongeBob shushed him. The king lifted his trident once again. "Until then, the crab shall remain frozen where he now stands." Mr. Krabs threw up his hand. "No, wait, I'm begging you!" But it was too late. An icy ray blasted out of Neptune's trident, cooling the Krusty Krab 2's dining room. "Huh," said Squidward. "Who turned on the AC?" Then he spied Mr. Krabs. His boss was now encased in a block of ice. "Ah, Mr. Krabs!" screamed Squidward. He hurried to Mr. Krabs' side and pounded on the ice that imprisoned him. "Oh no, this is terrible!" Squidward cried, holding his head in his tentacles. "Who's gonna sign my paycheck?" "Come along, Mindy," commanded King Neptune. Then the mighty monarch of the sea turned on his heels and stormed out the front door. Mindy hurried over to speak with SpongeBob and Patrick. "Listen, you guys, the road to Shell City is really dangerous. There are crooks, bullies, and monsters everywhere," she warned. SpongeBob's eyes went wide. Patrick just stared at Mindy, awestruck. He had never seen a mermaid before, let alone one so beautiful. "And what's worse," added Mindy, "there's a giant cyclops who guards the outskirts of the city and preys on innocent sea creatures." Now SpongeBob was shaking. "Don't let him catch you, because if he does, he'll take you back to his lair, and you'll never be seen again." "She's pretty, SpongeBob," Patrick whispered. He was completely smitten by Mindy's beauty. "Here, take this," said Mindy. She handed SpongeBob a sack that was tied at the top. "What's in here?" SpongeBob asked. Before Mindy could reply, he peeked inside the bag. A huge wind blew out, nearly tearing SpongeBob's face off. "It's a magical bag of wind," Mindy explained. "I stole it from my father." "You're hot," Patrick told the mermaid. Mindy ignored him. "Once you find the crown, open the bag of winds, and you'll be blown back home." "Gee, thanks," said SpongeBob. "Mindy!" King Neptune yelled from the carriage. "Come along! Time to go back to the castle!" "I'm coming!" she called. Then she faced the boys. "Good luck, SpongeBob." Mindy turned to go. "Wait!" SpongeBob cried. "How did you know my name?" Mindy shrugged. "Oh, I'm going to be Queen of the Sea one day. I've learned the names of all the sea creatures." "What's my name?" Patrick asked shyly. "That's easy," Mindy replied. "You're Patrick Star." said Patrick. Then he fainted. "Mindy!" the king roared. "I've got to go," said Mindy. Then she smiled at them. "I believe in you guys." "Thanks, Mindy," called SpongeBob as the mermaid princess swam away. Now that the king and his daughter were gone, SpongeBob walked up to his frozen boss to console him. "Don't worry, Mr. Krabs. Patrick, Squidward, and I—" "Pass," said Squidward. Patrick and I—" "Hi," Patrick waved. "We are going to save you from Neptune's wrath. You've got nothing to worry about. Your life is in our hands." Mr. Krabs' frozen face looked down at them. Even through the thick layers of magical ice, they could hear the restaurant owner groan. But SpongeBob SquarePants wasn't discouraged. In fact, he was filled with determination. There was a steely glint in his spongy eyes as he grabbed Patrick's arm and said, "Let's go get that crown!" Stay tuned for Chapter 7 coming up soon.